There's a moment that happens around year 3 of a decent job where something feels wrong. You got a promotion, your salary went up by $15,000. But your account balance didn't move. This is the part nobody explains. Most people think raising your income fixes financial stress. It doesn't. And there's a reason for that. Your salary and your wealth are actually operating on completely different rules. One of them is going up, and the other one isn't moving at all. If you've ever wondered why making more money didn't feel like making more money, this is what's actually happening. In a minute, I'm going to show you exactly where that extra $15,000 disappeared. But the last part changes everything about how you should think about your next raise. The system is designed so that your lifestyle expands automatically whenever your income does. It's not a personal failure. It's how the economy is structured. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine someone making $45,000 a year as a junior graphic designer. They rent a modest apartment for $1,200 a month. They drive a 12-year-old Honda. The car payment is gone. They make coffee at home most morning. Their monthly expenses are roughly $3,000. That person is stressed about money, but they're stable. Then they get promoted. They're now making $60,000 a year. 12 months ago, that extra $15,000 felt like freedom. But here's what actually happened over those 12 months. The apartment felt small after the first raise, so they upgraded to something nicer. $1,600 a month, suddenly it's professional. It has better light. It impresses dates. The old Honda started feeling like a source of embarrassment at client meeting. A 5-year-old Subaru or Hyundai seemed reasonable, only $35,000. Monthly payment $480. But they qualified. That's what mattered. The home coffee routine felt penny-pinching relative to their new position. Lunch became a recurring cost. $12 3 or 4 times a week. That's $50 a week. $200 a month. The clothes they wore to junior-level work didn't feel appropriate at their new desk. A few new pieces. Maybe $1,000 over a few months. Going out on weekends shifted too. They weren't at dive bars anymore. They were at restaurants where entrees were $28 instead of $14. This is where most people stop noticing the additions feel like separate decisions. But they're not separate. They're synchronized to something invisible. Every dollar your income increases triggers a cascading set of lifestyle upgrades. Rent goes up, transportation costs go up, food costs go up, appearance costs go up. Here's the clean way to think about it. Your brain is constantly benchmarking you against your reference group. Once you earn $60,000 instead of $45,000, your reference group shift. You're no longer comparing yourself to junior designers. You're comparing yourself to other mid-level designers. That comparison is happening automatically in the background. You don't have to consciously decide to do it. Your taste changes, your standards change, your spending follows. This feels like a personal choice. It's not. It's a structural feature of how income works in developed economies. Now here's the part that actually matters. That person is still stressed about money. They're making 33% more income, but they're spending 33% more. Their account balance is exactly where it was. Maybe worse, because they're carrying car debt now. The math looks like this. Extra income $15,000 minus lifestyle upgrades $15,200 equals net gain $200. They actually went backward, and they have no idea why. This is where it gets real. This isn't a one-time phenomenon. It happens again at $80,000 and again at $120,000. Most people never break the pattern. They reach 6 figures and feel just as financially stuck as they did at $50,000. They blame themselves. They think they're bad at money. They're not. The system is working exactly as designed. Pay attention to this part. The lifestyle creep is not a personal weakness. It's a documented economic principle called relative deprivation. You're not comparing yourself to who you were last year. You're comparing yourself to who you are now. Your nervous system doesn't care about absolute numbers. It cares about status within your peer group. When your peer group shifts because your income shifts, your spending automatically calibrates. This is happening in your brain without your permission. It's why a $3 million net worth person often feels poorer than a $1 million person in a lower cost of living area. The absolute wealth is different, but the relative position is similar. So the question becomes, how do you break the pattern? Most advice you'll hear is completely useless. Just spend less, save more, have discipline. None of that works because you're fighting biology, not behavior. Your brain is not going to accept downward mobility relative to your peer group. If you try to save aggressively while your peers upgrade their lives, you'll feel deprived their lives. You'll feel deprived. That feeling will eventually win. You'll rationalize the upgrade. Then another, then another. The solution is not to fight the pattern. It's to change when the comparison starts. Here's how this actually works in practice. You get a raise. Most people let their lifestyle immediately expand. What works instead is making a deliberate decision before the raise hits your bank account. Decide what percentage of the raise is going to your life now, and what percentage is going to your life later. This is not deprivation, it's intentionality. Let's say you get a $12,000 raise. That's $1,000 extra a month. You could split it. 600 goes to lifestyle improvements, 400 goes to retirement or investments. Now your brain has permission to upgrade your life. It gets the status gain it needs. But you're also systematically converting income into wealth. This works because you're not saying no to the upgrade. You're saying yes to a smaller version of the upgrade. Your brain accepts that because it still gets the signal that you've moved up. Here's a real example of how this plays out. A software engineer gets promoted from $80,000 to $98,000 a year. That's $18,000 more a year. $1,500 a month. Scenario 1. The lifestyle expands immediately. New apartment, new car, better restaurants. All $18,000 gets consumed within 9 months. No wealth builds. No net change in financial stress. Scenario 2. The engineer makes a decision up front. $800 goes to lifestyle upgrades. They move to a nicer neighborhood, but not the nicest one. $700 goes to retirement contributions and investment accounts. Over 10 years, what's the difference? 800 times 12 months times 10 years equals $96,000 in lifestyle improvements, versus 700 times 12 months times 10 years equals $84,000 in invested wealth at 7% annual returns equals $141,000 by year 10. That's a $57,000 difference in net worth. But here's the insidious part. Both people feel roughly equally satisfied with their lifestyle. The first person gets the full $57,000 in lifestyle pleasure spread across 10 years. The second person gets about 85% of that lifestyle pleasure, plus $141,000 in financial security. They barely notice the missing luxury, but they feel dramatically less financially stressed. This is the mechanism that most people miss entirely. The goal is not to live like you make half what you actually make. That creates psychological deprivation. It doesn't work. The goal is to let your lifestyle expand at 60 or 70% of your income growth, not 100%. Your brain gets the status signal it needs. Your net worth actually starts moving. Most people never experience this because they never deliberately make the choice. They just let it happen. And then they wonder why they feel financially stuck at 7 figures. Now here's where most money advice completely fails. Completely fails. Personal finance influencers tell you to automate your savings or pay yourself first. That's not wrong, but it's incomplete because it ignores the psychological reality. You can automate $300 a month to saving, but if your lifestyle is expanding at $1,000 a month, you're still losing ground relative to your peers. The automation helps, but it's not the actual solution. The solution is making one intentional decision per raise. How much of this income is going to my life right now versus my life later? Most people never make that decision consciously, which means their future self never gets a say in the equation. Here's the thing that changes everything. When you make the decision up front, you're not fighting deprivation feelings later. You've already told yourself, I'm improving my life. I'm also building wealth. Both of those things are happening. Your brain accepts that narrative because it's true. You're not depriving yourself. You're optimizing. Let me show you how this applies to different income levels. Because the principle stays the same, but the numbers scale. Someone making $35,000 a year gets a $4,000 raise. If they let it fully expand, their lifestyle absorbs all $4,000 within 6 months. But if they split it $2,400 to lifestyle, $1,600 to wealth building, something shifts. $1,600 times 12 months times 20 years times 107 multiplier equals $515,000. That's not aggressive saving, that's splitting a raise 50-40. By year 20, that person has compounded enough that their lifestyle finally isn't completely consumed by present moment costs. Someone making $140,000 a year gets a $32,000 raise. Scenario 1. All $32,000 gets consumed by lifestyle in the first year. Scenario 2. $19,000 goes to lifestyle. $13,000 goes to wealth building. 13,000 tags 12 months, 15 years tags 1.07 multiplier equals $2,700,000. The second person ends up with a significantly different life, not because they made some incredible career move, but because they made one deliberate decision about how to spend a raise. Now most people reading this are thinking one of two things. Either, yeah, I already do this. This is basic, or this is impossible. I can barely pay my bills. Both responses are valid. Let me address each. If you're already doing this consciously, you're in the top 10% of earners by financial stress level. You probably feel it. Money doesn't feel like an emergency anymore. If you're barely paying bills, the raise question is less relevant right now. What matters is when you do get a raise. You now know exactly what not to do. You know not to let the entire thing get consumed. Most people in that position will still let the full amount get consumed because that's the path of least resistance. But now you have a template for thinking about it differently. Here's what people get wrong about this pattern. They think it's about willpower, or discipline, or being good with money. It's not. It's about understanding how your brain's comparison system works, and then building a structure around it. The structure is make the decision before the money hits the account, not after before. That's the only part that matters. After the money hits, your brain has already started running the comparison software. You're already imagining yourself in the nicer apartment, in the better car, at the restaurants your peers go to. Before the money hits, you can still think clearly. You can still make a decision that feels generous to your present self, while being honest with your future self. That's when you make the split. This is where it gets expensive if you don't pay attention. Most people will experience 5 to 7 significant raises in their lifetime. If each raise gets fully consumed, you've left somewhere between $2 and $7 million on the table in compounded wealth by the time you're 70. That's not hyperbole. That's just compound interest plus inflation adjustments. Assume average raise of $15,000. Times 6 raises times 35 years average investment horizon times 7% returns equals $32 million in compounded wealth. That's the cost of never making the deliberate decision. Now here's the part most people misunderstand about their own behavior. You think you're going to be the one who gets rich and feels happy about it. That's not hyperbole. That's just compound interest plus inflation adjustments. Most people don't. Not because they're stupid, but because your brain is running on autopilot. The system is designed to make the autopilot decision feel normal. Everyone around you is upgrading their life when they get raises. It feels weird to not do it. It feels like you're failing. So you don't make the deliberate decision, you just let it happen. Then 5 years later, you're shocked that your account balance is the same as when you made $30,000 less. The people who break the pattern are not smarter. They're just slightly more aware of how the pattern works. And they make one decision before the raise hits. That's the entire difference. Most money stress in developed countries is not caused by low income. It's caused by this exact pattern repeating multiple times throughout a career. The income goes up. The lifestyle goes up. The wealth doesn't move. The stress doesn't decrease. You keep thinking the next raise will finally fix it. It won't until you deliberately change the equation. 3 things to remember from this. 1, your brain is benchmarking your lifestyle against your income bracket, not your actual needs. The income goes up. The lifestyle goes up. The wealth doesn't move. The stress doesn't decrease. 3, you can break the pattern by making one deliberate decision before each raise about how much goes to today versus tomorrow. If you want to change your financial trajectory, that decision is more important than any investment strategy or side hustle or budgeting spreadsheet. That decision is the foundation. Everything else sits on top of it. Start watching for it. The next time you get a raise, notice how quickly you imagine the lifestyle upgrade. Notice how that feeling doesn't go away, even if you have no logical reason to upgrade. That's your brain doing the comparison. That's the system working. Once you see it happening, you can actually make a choice about it. Most people never see it because they're not looking for it. If this resonated with you, the next video walks through how to actually calculate what your raise should become. Not what you want it to become, what it should become based on your specific situation